It used to be called a travelogue. Have you heard of that name? Yes. It is nothing but a travel diary, writing about one's travels. So that is what is basically travel writing. And since you live in this beautiful place, Mauritius, I'm so happy and I'm glad. Somehow it brings a lot of joy, to hear that you live in Mauritius, an ideal travel destination for us. Many of us want to go there. Okay, so travel writing by definition is writing that describes places that the author has visited and the experiences he has had while traveling. So, if we need to attempt a very, very basic definition of what travel writing would be, the first thing is this: any writing which is based on one's travel is travel writing. And by default, the slides look blurred, is it? One moment, huh? Shri Krishna? I have no idea what to do, Vikash. Can you see it now? No?
I can see the screen, but it looks very blurred from what I see.
If I start reading from it, would that help?
I don't know if you can send it to me by email. I can then just go through it.
I don't know. I will send it to Shanmugam sir. Then perhaps Shanmugam sir can, send it to you.
That would help a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't
Because
read the text on it.
because I don't know how to make it look better or anything. I don't know what to do.
If you stop sharing and reshare again, would it not help?
Oh, shall I stop sharing?
Stop sharing and reshare.
See now?
Still blurred.
Maybe the font that I have used is perhaps very this thing less.
I don't think
Is this better?
it's not the font. It's the way the display is looking like. Everything looks blurred. I don't know if it's from my side. Would you be able to check with Shamugam, sir?
What about Masika? Masika, can you see it clearly? Shall I read out from this, Vikash? Will that be any of?
That should
Will that be?
that should.
Okay. Travel writing. Travel writing, by definition, how would you define travel writing? It is nothing but any writing, about a travel that the author has undertaken, and it it describes the places that the author has visited, and along with that it also narrates his experience. So here in this kind of a writing, you see you have two things here. One is it is a descriptive writing, and another is it is also narrative. Do you understand? Descriptive basically describes people, places, things like that. Narrative writing is basically you know, recalling or writing about events, incidents that have taken place. That is the difference. Do you understand? So, travel writing is both descriptive as well as narrative in its essence. So, that is the first feature that you need to keep in mind. It is both descriptive as well as narrative. Now, descriptive, it describes the places, that the author has visited, and narrative about the experiences that the author, the writer has had in those places. So, this account, descriptive and narrative account of certain places visited by the author or the writer, is called travel writing. In older days, it used to be called generally as travelogue, a log which details or records everything about that travel. So that is why it was called a travel log. Now it is called travel writing. It's one and the same. Travel writing is actually a beautiful piece of writing because it carries with it the power to transport the reader, to the place that is being described. Now, Vikash, if you were to write about Mauritius and then I read about your, travelogue, travel writing, your piece of writing, what happens is I am also imaginatively transported to Mauritius. So, whatever experiences you narrate, I will also be able to take part in those experiences, share your experiences. So, travel writing, the second point here is it has a way of transporting the reader to new places. When it is done well, it can even inspire others to explore, experience new things, and gain an appreciation of different cultures. See? So, this is the power of travel writing. It can inspire people. If it is a very evocative piece of writing and it is very powerful in its narration, then what happens? I will also be automatically, motivated to go visit that place. So it is that, effective. So it's very very important. Writing here in a travel log becomes very very important because it should carry with it the power of transporting the reader to a place that is being described and the experiences being shared, narrated. Then being a travel writer means developing a lively interest in peoples and places and a flair for combining a vivid account of what you have seen with a formidable array of useful facts. Very, very succinctly put. It's beautifully summarized. This is the essence of travel writing. As a travel writer, basically, you should have an interest in traveling. First, it goes without saying, isn't it? That you should be interested in traveling. First point. Second point is you must carry with you that interest to meet people, go to new places, explore on your own, see what can be done. See, Somerset Maugham. There are many, many of his, novels where short stories also where he gives an account of how a travel writer must be. You can check it up. So, I forget the title of the essay by Maugham, Somerset Maugham. So he gives a very, very detailed account. And then you should have that interest to go and ferret out details about certain places. You must be in a position to dig it out. Go find out, research, see this, see that. You must have that kind of a knack. and that knack will come only if you are interested in it. So that is the basic component of a travel writer. You must have a vivid interest, a lively interest in people and places. And what is this interest? How is this interest? This interest is basically to see new things, new cultures, new ways of life. And see, if somebody were to come to Mauritius, let us say, if I were to come to Mauritius and I want to write an account of what I have seen, see, I should carry with me basically this interest to see how you people live life, how people in your place in the past lived their lives, and what are the changes that have occurred over a period of time. And then the nature of the people there. What kind of a people are you there, right? And then other details like cuisine, food. What kind of food do you people eat? What are the varieties available there? Is it different from one region to another region? Or is it the same throughout? How, intrinsically you are different from one place to another place? See, all these things, I must carry a visit, interest. I must be basically interested in all that. And I must also carry with me this mind to explore. I want to see this place. Oh, this is a lesser known place in Mauritius. I want to see this. And I want to see, your lifestyles, your religion, how you people conduct your life on a daily basis. All these things, must preoccupy me as a travel writer. When I visit a place, I must sharpen, fine hone my faculties to notice these things. See, everything is not available in a written manner. It is for us to glean from on the job experience, isn't it? When I visit there, what is the feel that I get? What are my experiences with people there? These things, you see, I must cultivate that interest. If I have that interest, then I must combine that with certain useful facts. Like, it must act like a guide. Now, look at a travel brochure, for example. When you see a travel brochure regarding Mauritius, how detailed it is. They give you every detail possible. What flights to plan, where do you have to alight, what places to see there, which place do you want to stay in, and the distance between one place to another, estimated cost. All these things you see are very, very useful information that you must record as a travel writer. Apart from your experiences and your description of the place, you must have a record or you must give details regarding these useful facts. Are you all with me? I'm not able to see you, Vikash, because my screen is blocked. Okay, but are you with me? Okay,
I'm
done.
with you. I can hear you. Thank
Okay, done. Now let's look at the historical background. There have been many, many, many travel writers. See, Chinese pilgrims, for example, Fahim, Huinsang, see, Tavernier, Bernay. See, these are all French names, and I don't know how to pronounce these names properly because I don't know French. And then Italian, yes, Batuta, of course. Then I have put him here. Arabians like Alberuni and Batuta and Marco Polo. Now, the books that these people have written are very, very important documents of the religious, political, social, and cultural history of the place. See, I want to draw your attention. Yes, yes, yes. He was an African, correct. You're very right. Now, um, you see, another thing that I want to draw your attention to is there is a YouTuber called Praveen Mohan. Have you heard of him? Have you seen him? No. You must take some time, to visit this man's channel. He's called Praveen Mohan. This person deserves, I think, the highest of the high awards internationally. He has done intensive research about places, temples basically. He goes there, he sees different temples, and he is able to unearth interesting facts from the sculptures found on these temple walls. And the way he narrates it is absolutely fantastic, mesmerizing account. You must visit this site sometime. You must visit this man's channel, Praveen Mohan. I'm really taken in by this man's, versatility in describing and narrating, how he has combined narration and description, and he has brought alive a picture of the past. He goes to temples, see certain temples, he gives us a record. uh, Yes, Simon Reeve also. Yes, yes. I actually have seen many of his travels, and I have this feeling that I have visited so many places. Incidentally, quite recently, I was looking at Rome, and this man, brings it alive, in front of our eyes like that. Very, very interesting. Yes, I have seen Simon Reeve also. And Praveen Mohan, see, the interesting facts here about Praveen Mohan is this. With Simon Reeve, he visits places and he shows us the most interesting and important things to be seen around, and that's about it. His conversation with people there, food that is there, and things like that, isn't it? But Praveen Mohan is distinctly different because he is attempting to reconstruct some things which are absolutely lost to posterity. He looks at the sculptures and then tries to rebuild, a history along the lines of the sculptures on the temple walls. Certain very interesting things come up here. See, in one of the documentaries that he has produced, I was seeing this, that there is this lady carved on the temple wall with something like a mirror held in front of her face. If you cursorily look at that, you will feel she's looking at her own reflection in the mirror. But Praveen Mohan draws our attention to the other hand of hers, where she's holding something like a stylus and attempting to write on what she's holding in her other hand. So he concludes, by making this conjecture that it is probably a tab, and it is a stylus with which she's trying to write something. And there are other sculptures there which corroborate this man's conjecture. That is what is something mind boggling. Way beyond, in history, thousands of years ago, the fact that human beings knew of such scientific gadgets.
Omar Inc.
And then he
Omar
gives us, then he gives us, accounts of Shivalingams there, you see, in certain places, and he shows us how they are like nuclear reactors. And he explains the reason why there is a perpetual drop of water on the lingam wherever the lingam is, constructed, erected. He shows there in great detail and absolutely scientific detail how there are these reactions there, and how the lingam, acts as a reactor and to keep it cool, there is this constant infusion of water on its head. And then you see the pathway that is drawn. He draws our attention to all that, and then he shows us how and in what direction the older people, the older generation, made the water, flow in a particular direction. Absolutely mesmerizing. You must visit this man's channel. Sheer curiosity, nothing other than that. I watch him for just that. How he is able to kind of construct, it's like a jigsaw puzzle, you see. He is able to bring pieces, whole pieces together like that, and then show it to us. And then, you see, he leaves it open to us, viewers, to conclude whatever we may want to from that. But by then, it is already clear of what he wants us to see. He shows it to us so well. And in another, YouTube documentary there, he shows us how he is able, it's something like a mantra scope. I think he calls it a mantra scope. He is able to capture the sound waves and the frequency of this primal sound, Om. He produces that sound Om, and he has captured the traveling of the sound waves and he shows it to us. Very, very scientific. Absolutely in keeping with all the calculations and things like that. So, travel writing is today, you see, not just with the pen and paper. It can also be a visual thing. Yes, I see. Michael Wood, is it? I will watch this. I haven't seen this. I will watch it. I'll watch it. Michael Wood, isn't it? I'll make a note of it. Okay, BBC documentary. All right. See, now in today's world, travel writing is not just writing. It is taking us along with them visually. You see the journey, on that journey. So it is, and the narration that they combine it with makes it all the more worth the while watching it. So you must somehow experience it. One moment, huh? So that's it, okay? That's one thing. And these people, and in history, we have had records of these people when they have attempted, Fahin and Huinsang especially, you see, they are the people who have reconstructed for us the history of India itself, isn't it? And it's so interesting to read their accounts. And I was reading excerpts from Huin Sang some time ago, and he traces so well the history of Buddhism itself. And his account of the development of Buddhism is so different from what we read in the history books about the development and history of Buddhism in India. It is very different. And he gives us an account, a blow by blow account of how common man took to Buddhism in the times of Ashoka. Ashoka, the great emperor. You know that, isn't it? Ashoka converted himself to Buddhism and all that, and how he erected those stupas and got people to read it. So all those things are there. That is one thing. So very interesting. Very interesting. Then the next is, what is the purpose of these travel books? We need a purpose for everything, isn't it? What can be the purpose? The early travel books served several purposes. They provided us with reasonably accurate records of particular peoples, places, customs, ceremonies, etc. See, if we want to reconstruct the ethos of a certain past era, then the travel accounts of these people become very, very important. These people, gave to us how the common man lived his life. And that is the one which captures the essence of the society, the ethos of the society. How people were, what were their prevalent customs, how did they lead their day to day life, what were their value systems. See, if we read an account of, I forget this historian's name at the moment here, she's so sad. It's at the tip of my tongue, but I'm unable to recollect that right now. But he gives us an account of the Vijayanagar Empire, the Hampi Empire, Vidyaranya, who started it with the help of these two brothers, Hakka and Bukka, down South India in Karnataka. You see? No, no, it is not Sunil Nihalani. No, 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 it is not that. I forget the man's name. And there he tells us the value systems of those places, how markets were conducted there. And I believe even now, when you visit Hampi, you can see that. There is a row of these stone architectures, like mantapas. That is what we call them in India. They're like mantapas, like domes, open domes. They are a series of open domes, constructed, and in each dome, open dome, these traders would sit, exhibiting their wares. And you see, it was a weekly fair. And on one side of the city, town, whatever it is, no, it is an Indian, Vikash. It is an Indian who has given us an account. If I recollect, I will let you know. No, no, Naipaul is not a historian at all. Naipaul never lived in India actually, and he's been there and he's been writing an account of India, which is kind of hearsay. So I wouldn't, count on Naipaul in a very big way that way. Okay, doesn't matter. We'll come to it by and by. I hope I recollect the name. So how these people, would sit there, and ordinary people, common men, would come there, and then they would also buy their wares. Like how on one side of the city was marked for vegetables and spinach, and another place for groceries. Another place, you will be surprised to know, for diamonds, gold, pearls. All these were overseas halls. And the traders, would sell it there. Even there, you see, it was not like everybody had an access to buying these things. No, only the privileged few of the city could afford it. And the common ordinary man, would go there just to witness it, to see it. I believe the value system was so good way back then that whoever bought one seer of these precious stones, gems, he would distribute a certain small percentage of that one seer to the needy people. Now, who became the needy? Not the beggars, mind you, not the beggars, but the needy people who were looking at avenues to get their daughters married, or who were waiting, for prospective grooms or brides, or whatever, however, whoever, and they lacked these things. So it was an unwritten rule, an unspoken rule, that whoever bought one seer of gems or these precious stones would distribute a certain small percentage of it to somebody who was in need of it, like this. See, look at the value system of that place, and this has not been recorded in any history book. But this finds a mention in one of the travel documents. It essentially becomes a document, isn't it? See, these reconstruct to us those beautiful, precious value systems which are lost in today's world. We have no access to it. So, these are very, very important things. And another thing that I want to draw your attention to is this. There is a concept, a career option in today's world, and that is of a food historian. Have you heard of this term, food historian? Yes? Yes. Now, there is a man, yes, Rick Stein, correct. Now, there is one more in India, South India, Chennai, called Rakesh Raghunathan. He also sports a YouTube channel. This Rakesh Raghunathan, as a food historian, he has done an enormous amount of research. He has gone to temples and he has made a note of certain recipes sculpted on the temple walls. Now, these recipes pertain to certain very popular food items to be prepared during certain festivals connected with the deity of that temple. Now, there is a sweet rice that is, cooked. It down south we call it chakrai pongal, which is called sweet pongal. It's called chakrai pongal. Now, yes, pongal, sweet pongal, made out of jaggery. Now, this particular dish is, offered as prasadam, naivedyam to Lord Narayana. He is the recipient of this particular naivedyam. Naivedyam means an offering of food to God. Now, on the temple walls of a certain temple, I forget at the moment which temple it is, but on that temple wall, it is inscribed in detail how many seers of rice to be used, how many seers of moong dal to be used, jaggery to be used, and other spices like cardamom, then edible camphor, then kesari. You see, all these I believe are inscribed there, and he's taken screenshots of that and he has shown it in his channel. And they have also given the method of preparation, and in that recipe, in that inscription, such details are given that it also specifies how many people can be fed with this quantity of preparation. Look at the kind of things that you can get when you go there and become a food historian. I find this absolutely mesmerizing. I don't know, I'm speechless. And this man, Rakesh Raghunathan, has been able to bring out so many forgotten traditional food items. And he says, I have been able to get it from the temple inscriptions. And another is, he says, my travels to places leads me to certain age-old families who have been following certain recipes in that age-old manner. And he brings it alive. He, demonstrates how to prepare it, and then he brings it alive, and it's a document. There is another man called Venkatesh Bhatt. He is a 5-star chef. He has also attempted to do something very similar, but he has not visited any place or anything. But in his experience, whatever traditional cuisine he has been able to get, he is, demonstrating that he's cooking it for us and he's showing it to us. So, travel writing today is actually a diversified career option. It is not simply something to entertain people. It is definitely a document for the archives of a country. And another is this. I have this, pride to put it on record to say that my husband, Dr. Rajshekhar Kambar, has been able to document some age-old rural games. He has documented, he has gone to many villages in South India, in Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh, and he has asked the people there to play those games, and he has videoed it, he has videographed it, he has put everything on film, and that is archived today. You see, age old games, physical games. Today we give so much of importance to Olympics and all that, isn't it? Now, it is such a mind-boggling feature to notice that our older generations had so many diversified, myriad, games, outdoor games. How they would weight lift, how they would climb poles smeared with oil, and what ingenuity in putting together these games. And this was a painstaking effort by him, and with lot of pride I want to put it on record today. He has done a commendable job, and that is also part of travel writing, you see. So travel writing today is not simply documenting it with pen and paper. It goes way beyond all that. So, how do you reconstruct the ethos of a place? It is by documenting these things. It can be food, it can be, I don't know if you have seen this movie called Ponniyin Selvan. Games have an ageless quality of bringing people together with a strong community bonding element. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I was mentioning this movie, Ponniyin Selvan, PS 1 and 2. I don't know if you watch Indian movies, but this is a Tamil movie, and directed by Mani Ratnam, one of an epoch-making directors. And I was reading about the making of the film, and it's so interesting to note that he was able to take it. This is based on a novel, right? This is based on a novel. The movie is based on a novel by Kalki Krishnamurti. But the costumes that he was able to design for the characters in the movie, see, I was reading about it. He has researched into the era of the Cholas. He has gone to so many travel documents. Apart from history books, travel documents, I believe, gave him a comprehensive idea of the costumes used. If you just go to YouTube and then see Mani Ratnam's, effort in making this movie, you will be able to get all these details. See how important travel document. Nelson Mandela as the president used the World Cup games. Okay, yes, 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 yes. Very interesting. See how we are able to draw parallels. Now that is the beauty of the whole thing, isn't it? I enjoy this part, absolutely, because we're able to draw parallels which goes beyond boundaries, geographical boundaries, isn't it? So interesting. So travel documents become so important for so many things like this, right? Done. The next is, I have mentioned here some Modern travel writing authors, travel writers, okay? Bill Bryson, Eric Newby, Hemingway, Graham Greene. You see, these are some new names, modern names that I have just shared with you, so that if you have some interest, you can kind of visit them here, right? And what are the changes in travel writing? Travel books are no longer the only source we have to tell us about a place. We have been discussing that at length right now. They are not the only source anymore. Visual medium has overtaken us and overwhelmed us in such a way that writing, is only a part of communication. It's only one part of the communication. No doubt, a very important and powerful part of communication, but it's only one part of the communication. And travel has become so inextricably linked with tourism. Now it is more commercial. You're right. Isn't that correct? Now, many of the names that you have mentioned, you see, Rick Steves is again another. Yes, yes. Ponniyin Selvan is the name of the Tamil movie that I referred to. Yes. You must watch the movie also with subtitles, Vikash. It's a beautiful, apart from, the story content of the movie, the way he has brought alive an era of the past, especially the Cholas, a historical period in South India, that's very interesting. So you could watch that there. That is something which is nice. Okay. So now it's more commercial. Yes, definitely. If we just need to open certain travel brochures, we will know the meaning of what it is to become commercial. And today, if I want to travel, I will definitely look up these commercial travel sites for more information about the places. That is what is interesting for me. Do you understand? For the common man today, with money perhaps at his fingertips, tourism, yes, it contributes to GDP, yes. And every country wants to exploit every little bit. Yes, yes. Most of the countries, why? Almost every country has a Ministry of Tourism because every country has a story to tell with its places. And they want people to visit them. And look at how Sri Lanka bounced back through its sheer power of tourism. Such a wonderful country, such a beautiful place. You see, many of us put these things in our bucket list, isn't it? Places that we want to visit, right? So tourism, today is a different ball game altogether. It's no longer very simple, and it's inextricably, definitely linked to a very commercial note. And I will not say it is wrong. It is not wrong, but that, is a different piece of literature altogether. And travel writing as a document of literature is different. That is different, this is different. So I just want you to note the differences between the two, and that's about it. Then, why travel writing? Why do we need travel writing? Over the African continent is yet to develop, and still the continent has so much. Yes, yes, yes. You're very correct. See, for a layman today, Africa would stand for Nigeria, and probably the African safari. Over and beyond that, the common man, of different countries perhaps will not know at all, isn't it? So it becomes a duty of each one of you perhaps there to visit places and then to document it in a very interesting way where people come to know of Yes, it has the highest GDP in Africa. Why? Because it is, yes. Why is it a powerhouse? Because all over the world, people know of this country alone, isn't it? Where are the others here? I mean, there are people like Googie, who argue for this fact that there is so much more to Africa that every common man needs to know. But how? Where? Right? Yes, Ethiopia is also upcoming. Correct. Yes. But you know what I'm trying to get at? As a matter of personal interest, when you visit certain places new to you, you must develop that knack of writing about those places, or at least taking a video and narrating it in a very interesting manner. That is something which is needed in today's world. Very important. This is very, very important. Okay. So why travel writing? One moment, huh? Okay. So why travel writing? Readers travel in the mind. Isn't that a fact? When I read a very imaginative, evocative piece of writing about a certain place, my imagination is fired. I am able to travel in my mind with my imagination and see, literally see what I am reading. So that is the power of words. That is the power of words. See, for many readers, travel books represent a kind of escape. They can read about faraway places, about adventure, and the joys and mishaps of traveling, all in the safety of their own homes. Right? Whatever experiences the writer is sharing, the readers will also have the same experiences, but sitting comfortably on a couch in the living room of their house and then enjoying that experience of the writer. So that is something which you have to keep in mind. And then travel writing is one way of preserving not only the physical landscape of a place, but also its feel, its atmosphere. You're right. That is what I mean by an evocative piece of writing. How does your writing become evocative? It becomes evocative. How? When you bring alive the setting, when you reconstruct the mood, when you reconstruct the atmosphere, that is evocative writing. So, it not only travel writing, not only describes a place, along with the description of a place, it also brings alive the atmosphere, the mood, the feel of that place. So that is the function, primary function of a good piece of travel writing. Then, travel writing often tells a story, and that is of the writer and his or her discovery of a place. True. That is why I said travel writing is a beautiful blend of description and narration. It describes both narratives and description. It tells a story. The travel writer says, I woke up early in the morning to the beautiful sound of the chirping of the birds. The chirping of the birds broke the stillness of the early morning hours. The cold dew I could feel on my face as I took a walk along the garden paths, something of that sort. So, what is happening? The writer is now narrating a story. And then suddenly I came across a wonderful sight which made me catch my breath in amazement. Now, what happens? Surprise, suspense. I'm evocating the mood, and I'm also, bringing forth that element of mystery, surprise. All these things, all these things are there in that piece of writing. So, travel writing is definitely storytelling. You tell a story, and how powerful is that story, depends on. Wonder whether you've read Godima's short story, The Ultimate Safari. No, no, I haven't. I have read Nadeem Godimar, but I haven't read this particular story. What is this about, Vikash? What is it about?
It's about a story of a refugee family fleeing the war in Mozambique and moving to South Africa at some point.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay. I shall definitely take time to read it. I'll make a note of it. The Ultimate Safari, is it, by Godimer? Okay. Right. So that is how a travel writer, often tells a story. Now, what are the factors that influence travel writing? What are the factors? There are several factors that influence the travel literature that is being produced in our time. In our time, tourism, more information oriented than personal observation. Today's travel writing is more information based. As I mentioned to you, in the earlier slides, you should combine it with useful facts. Today, we find that there is more of information than personal observation. See, travel writing, travelogue as a literary genre is very different from travel writing as a piece of literature for tourism. This is a difference, a principal difference which you should note. There is this difference. As a literary genre, it gives you a gamut of experiences, personal, incidental details that heighten that quality of a place, right? But as a piece of literature for tourism, it is more informative. What kind of hotels do you find there? And how much is the distance from this place to that? What are the tariffs of the hotel rooms? What is the price of this and that? More about useful information for people who would want to visit that place. And more often now we find that these useful information are being coupled with beautiful pictures. Sometimes a promotional film is also added there. And this promotional film is from the Ministry of Tourism also. They make this film showcasing, the most important and most picturesque places of that area. And then that is combined with more, information. So today, travel writing is largely a corpus of this. Gone are the days when we would have a record of the writer's experiences. And that is what makes travel writing an interesting read. We want to see the place through the eyes of this person. And when we look at it through the eyes of this person, you see, when he narrates that story, how we take that journey is something that is beautiful, isn't it? It's an experience. Singapore used the Hindi film Badrinath Ki Dulhaniya to promote the destination. Yes, yes, I have heard of this. Not that I have seen it, but I have heard of it. Many do it. Many do it. See, most movies when they feature Western places, it acts as, how would I put it? It acts as an extra. It gives them an extra fillip. The movie gets an extra fillip, and it motivates people to go and visit that place. They want to see that place, especially on the big screen. When you watch these, places, it gives you a very different feel. And definitely you are enticed to go visit that place, isn't it? But today, sadly, that is how travel writing seems to have it. Yes, many Hindi songs picturizing Kashmir, especially. Those famous age-old classics of Shami Kapoor. Beautiful. That Kashmir is a beauty to behold. You see, very nice. And the Switzerland Alps, of course, no mention need be made here. I think of the beauty of all that, isn't it? So many, regional movies have got their songs picturized there. You see the Himalayan ranges. Oh, so many. There are many examples that we can cite actually. Anyway, then yes, Roja, exactly, yes, and it's so beautifully picturized also, isn't it? It's so beautifully done. And then magazines, newspapers, and blogs. The need is for medium length articles rather than full length books. Blogging today is very popular, and travel blogs are very interesting. Just like travel vlogs on YouTube, this also you must keep in mind. Every YouTuber of today's world is interested only in vlogs. I went to this place, I went there, I did this, I did that, and that's about it. A video documentary of very mundane things. Blogging, of course, is there. It is there. People do blog of about places they visited and things like that. But even then, space is a constraint. Many don't want to, have a long write up, simply for this reason that readers have an impatience to finish the article. See, psychology research also tells us the more exposure we have to the visual medium, the span of attention that we have for reading comes down. The visual medium today is so attractive that we find that it is easier for us to watch something rather than read something. Take our own instances, for example. See, we'd rather watch these. I mentioned so many YouTubers, and it's so easy to watch them. As against them, I gave you a list of these, writers, modern travel writers. As against these people, now how many of us have the patience to read them, and how many of us are interested to watch them? See, the difference is right there for us to see. It's glaring at us, right? So, even in magazines and other newspapers and things like that, you can only run a column for travel writing. But nobody is interested in having a full book published on a place. But this author that I mentioned about Hampi, that man has written a book on Hampi Empire, Vijayanagar Empire. I forget the name, I don't know why. Okay, types of travel writing. I now move on to types of travel writing. There are two distinct kinds of travel writing today. One that speaks of travel as a personal experience, travelogue, and another that provides information to travelers, like a travel guide. Right? Did you write something, Vikash? Okay. So, two kinds of travel writing. One, the travelogue itself. It's more literary, the genre, the travelogue genre as such. That is one. And another, of course, is this more commercial oriented travel writing itself. Then, articles on travel, such as those that appear in our newspapers and magazines, fall somewhere in between the two, as they combine elements of both. Very correct. Now, in newspaper columns or in magazines, in his latest book, 50 Incarnations, Sunil Kilani tells the story of Krishna Devaraya, I believe. Okay, I see. Okay. Mention the author again so that I can make a note of it. Can you mention that author again? Krishna Sunil what? Khilnani. Okay, okay. 50 Incarnations, is it? The book? Okay, done. Noted. Hmm. What was I saying? Yes. Now, in magazines and newspapers, they also carry a short column, on travel writing. Now, this is the third category, but we cannot really call it a category because it carries elements of both commercial, useful information and also personal. Masika, can you please mute yourself? Masika, please mute yourself, Masika. Can you mute yourself? Yes, please. Mute yourself. Okay, right. So you cannot really call it a category as such, but it carries features of both these kind of writings. Now, what are the elements of travel writing? This is also something which you should notice. A good travel article should first of all be readable and lively. It goes without saying, no? If travel writing is not lively and it doesn't have an easy read, who will read it? Right? So it should be by default readable and lively. And it should be able to exercise the interest and curiosity of the reader. Yes, that is a very important feature. It must arouse the curiosity of the reader, isn't it? And if my curiosity is incited, it's ignited, then definitely I will want to visit that place. So it goes without saying. Then the writer should choose a style that arouses and sustains the reader's interest. The style must be very lucid, very, very lucid style. And Simple, easy flowing style. So that, I kind of, without being aware that I'm reading, I'm taken along, with the reading. That way, it should be very easy flowing. The writer should introduce an element of personal experience which alone can make any writing authentic and credible. See, he should introduce that element of personal experience. Why? Because only then will it hold the interest of the reader. If there is a personal account there and that personal involvement, then the reader is always more interested to see what happens. And added to that, it gives a lot of credibility to the writing, no? I have seen it, I have done it. So it becomes more authentic. But the writer should not be subjective. That is the catch. You recount your personal experience. You involve yourself in the narration, no doubt about it. But don't be subjective. Don't pass judgment. Don't give your opinion about the whole thing. You record it as you have seen it and leave it at that. That is the catch. The writing should carry a universal appeal. Very true. It should have that universal appeal. What are the prerequisites for a travel writer? A next very important part. What are the prerequisites? The travel writer has to combine many skills. Why? Because a lived experience has to be shared. Isn't that correct? Masika, can you mute yourself, please? I find that there's a lot of this electronic sound, clashing in between. There is a icon of the microphone. You just need to press that and then you can mute yourself. I have learned that much now. In your screen, there is a camera icon, then there is a microphone icon, isn't it? You just click on that microphone icon and then you will be able to mute yourself. Okay. So, what are these many skills that a travel writer should have? He should have the ability for words, first and foremost, right? And he should be a bit of a journalist. That is what I meant. He should be something of a reporter. He should be something of a researcher and perhaps something of a novelist too. These are the many skills that he must and should possess. He must possess these skills. See? And then the travel writer should be able to live both in the present as well as the past. That's another feature. Both the present as well as the past. Why? Because I told you he must combine the skills of a researcher, a man with words, or a person with words, and a reporter, that objective narration, description of a novelist, skills of a novelist. So then, when he has all this, and when he looks at a certain place, he must be able to reconstruct for us what that place was like in the past as well. So he must have that ability of reconstructing the past. So he must write and give us that experience of the past as well as the present. So he must have this knack of recreating the past. Then the travel writer has to keep the writing visual as any kind of creative writing must be endowed with a visual imagination and a capacity to communicate a picture of a place. That is what I meant by description. Any description, goes without saying that it is visual. When you describe, you are constructing the image of a person or a place. So, this creative writer or travel writer who has to be a creative writer should have a felicity with words which are able to capture the visual image of that place or a person. And he must get that place or that person to communicate with the readers. That is something which is very, very important. Most of these writers, which we have generally now mentioned, have that power of doing this. They write so well. Nadine Godimer also, such a beautiful writer. Then I continue with the prerequisites of a travel writer. Then I say he has to keep an open mind, free of prejudice. He cannot be prejudiced. He should be able to keep an open mind. And he must and should read and research about the place. It's a must. And then keep in mind the purpose of writing, whether to give information or to do a narrative. So he must keep his purpose very clearly in focus. Try to make it a lived experience. The writing should be able to bring about that lived experience, and only then can it be a powerful piece of writing. Know the general rules of travel writing. For travel blogs, that often means the writing should be written in first person, tell the story in the past tense, be conversational in tone, dialogue can be used in between, contain sensory details like I could feel the freshness of the leaves or the flowers. That is sensory detail. The green grass felt smooth and tender under my feet. Sensory detail, right? The food tasted absolutely fantastic. Whatever it is, the bread or whatever that I eat, that I'm eating or that I ate, simply melted in my mouth. Or when I bit into the piece of the pudding, the juice, you see, it was so juicy, sensory detail, right? So you must use these sensory details also to make it very evocative. Give the reader value in some way, whether that's providing useful tips for navigating or an insight into a culture. See, every reader must have a giveaway there, isn't it? He must have something to take, from it. So either you give him useful tips, you can give tips like take warm clothing. You can do this. Masika, please mute yourself. So you can give these details and then make it relatable to the audience, of course. Kinds of travel writing. What are the different kinds of travel writing? See, before you even begin to locate an appropriate subject, it is imperative that you know very clearly who your readers are. You must start from there, from that back end. If you know your readers, then you can pitch your writing accordingly. It's very important. So you must know who your readers are. and what sort of publication you're writing for. Whether you're writing a book to be published by a publishing house or you're doing a column in a magazine or a newspaper, these two factors are important because they determine the types of travel literature that is in demand today, right? And then types of travel writing. First is promotional literature, brochures, booklets, pamphlets, and other materials which are put out by the state and national tourism promotion establishments with a view to inducing people to visit a particular area. I told you this, no? They also do a promotional film where some celebrities are drawn into it. Celebrities are there in these promotional movies, short films that are made about certain places, which can increase viewership as well as tourism. Informative articles for the tourist. Yes, celebrity endorsement. Informative articles for the tourist. Articles which inform travelers about interesting places and are meant for publication in a general travel magazine, a Sunday newspaper supplement, or the travel section of any one of a number of magazines. So it could be writing for these kinds also. Articles aimed at the business traveler. There is this new kind now, business destination. Apart from this, there is another thing which is very, very trendy and now, catching up. What is that? Destination weddings, destination photo shoots. So if you write about places like this, see, even on the net, if you just Google out certain, places for photo shoot, interesting, and how well they write, and they combine both useful information as well as an evocation of the place. They do both. They do both. Just see on Google. It's very interesting to see how these people write. What I'm trying to get at is, see, these are also career options. Writing for such things can also be career options. So this diploma in creative writing is not simple, in one sense. It's not just a knowledge base that you acquire, but definitely it is, contributing to your career options as well. Right. Uh, where did I start? Yes. For the business traveler, these are factual articles aimed at conveying travel information to this important and growing segment of the traveling public, right? Where you can conduct your business, what are the kind of places that you can go to, all these are important. When you want to clinch a deal, the location also matters a great deal, isn't it? So the depth or the volume of business is somewhere, directly proportional to, the place, the location also. So that is also there. Now it's a very upcoming, trending, happening thing now. Articles for the armchair traveler. Now, these are all elegantly written accounts of visits of exotic or unusual places, basically to entertain the reader. Why? Because the reader chooses to do his traveling by reading about this. So that's it. Then, creative travel writing. Creative travel writing is a class by itself. I told you, no, that this is literature, serious literature. So this is called creative travel writing. Then Travel writing means identifying audiences and meeting the needs of several different kinds of travel publications. It is no longer enough to write a descriptive essay on a place you have visited and what you saw there. Editors and readers now demand a great deal more than that. What do they demand? They want concrete words rather than adjectives. They're not simply interested in hyperboles. They don't want only description. They need factual information and they need details about what to do. What are the things that are there available to do? Knowledgeable explanations of culture, craft, cuisine, customs, and environment of a particular region. This is the demand today. Travel writing demands this today. Okay? The kind of travel writing you choose to do will depend upon what kind of travel writing you want to do will depend upon your personal style, your ability to travel, and your knowledge of travel related subjects. One person may do an excellent text for a brochure but turn out a very poor article. Another may fail entirely in writing brochures but may do a wonderful piece of writing in creative travel writing. So it depends on person to person what your strengths are. Techniques of travel writing. A successful technique of travel writing depends on the cultivation of certain qualities. What are those qualities? Honesty, truthfulness, open mind, adjustability, keen observation, capacity to talk and listen to people with an unbiased mind, capacity to record facts and statements methodically, and have general awareness. Then, adequate preparation must be done before writing. What does that mean? Collecting information, consulting maps, guidebooks, tourist literature, visiting libraries. So these background, information, this background work also needs to be done by a travel writer. Then cultivation of a style huh, that is a blend of actual, factual, and creative writing. Always keeping in mind the readership and the kind of publication for which you write. These are the things that one must keep in mind. Okay, so once you have decided to do a bit of travel writing, you have to decide what kind of travel story you're going to write. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, who your readers are and where it is likely to be published. Whether it is a Sunday newspaper edition or a travel magazine, what it is, you need to decide on that. And then you have to, as I mentioned earlier, you have to collect information, visit the place you have in mind, and settle down to start writing it. How do you collect information? You can see maps, consult tourist literature, consult guidebooks. Visiting the place, keeping an open mind, observation powers should be good. Meeting people, you must be gregarious. And extempore, meet people on the spot and talk to them just like that. Extempore, you must be good at that. And then you, of course, use a library for verification of data. Then, writing, how do you keep the reader in view? If you want to hold the attention of your reader, you have to enliven the text with relevant personal observations, quotes, and anecdotes. To write this sort of an article, you have to remember a number of details. So it is better to carry a diary and note it down. Your individual informed judgments and advice will be of a greater use to the reader. It is therefore your informed views and use the third person rather than the first in your writing. To see the third person normally, brings about a lot of, how would I put it, a rapport, bonding. You see, because the reader will have that feeling of participating there. When you keep on using the personal pronoun, it is exclusively yours, right? So that is the difference. So it should be a blend of factual and creative writing. Avoid hyperbole. Be very simple in your writing and use preferably very short sentences, and blend the role of a journalist and a reporter. Develop your powers of observation. Learn how best to communicate what you want to say. Now, if you want to be very communicative about places and people and all that, you have to be factual, you have to be imaginative, you have to be sympathetic rather than condescending or patronizing. Different spaces for travel writing: magazines, blogs, newspapers, and specific items like customs, food, etc. of a place. Can be anything. Different spaces. Wherever you want, you can write these things. Supplementary material. You can make use of photographs. This is because I'm talking specifically about writing as such. I'm not talking about, the videos. I'm talking only about writing. So you can make use of photographs. Black and white photographs must highlight the details. You must make sure that they are very clear and see that it is not matte finished but it is glossy. There must be no scratches on the prints. That's about it. You can also use color photographs. Right. And when you're using photographs, make sure you crop it and you make a right selection of the pictures. And most importantly, caption the pictures. If you caption the pictures, it has a lot of effect. And sometimes you can use sketches or illustrations instead of pictures. That is also very entertaining. That is also very useful. So, with this, we come to the end of our presentation today. Travel writing. We finish this particular session, block 3 on travel writing. Tomorrow I shall meet you at the same time and then I will talk to you about interviews. Okay? I'll see you tomorrow then.
Thank you very much.
Thank